Welcome to episode 165 of Drew Sports Crew here on this Sunday night. Myself, Drew Skyler, back at the usual time, bringing you the news in the Wisconsin sports world. Look, this week it's a little different. Right? I mean, the Bucks season unfortunately comes to an end after a disappointing 6-game series. Some were surprised the Bucks even took this to 6 games, right? But I myself thought if Dame was healthy all 6 games, I thought they could have won this in 7. Obviously they had Dame game 6 and they didn't win the game on the road. They didn't win the game on the road, and that's kind of what did it there. So not really upset. I do want to just highlight how fun game 5 was. And I will in this episode, as well as just kind of look at the season. I'm going to kind of look what's next. I've already been talking with some Bucks fans kind of on what they think is next, and I've heard some wild things, and I've heard some things I agree with, so we'll kind of touch on that. Otherwise, on a more personal note, this is the last episode that you'll be seeing in this background. Not the last episode, of course, but the last episode in this background. So I'll be graduating here coming up, so it's exciting. But that does mean new background, new scenery. It's still we'll be back in the home studio here in a bit, but just be on the lookout. New studio coming up. So that's what's going on, and that does shift our recording times as well. Probably be finding episode of Journey to a Million. We'll be doing some best ball NFL fantasy draft. We already have Zach, who tends to be the best ball expert. He, doing some drafts, getting some teams together. We'll talk about ADPs. We'll talk about some value on the board right now in underdog best ball, but that'll be probably coming your way Tuesday morning. A weird time. I know if you can't catch it, news will be relevant in that one for throughout the week. So just check that out on all listening platforms at Drew Sports Crew. And then also just like general rankings, schedule previews. I got you covered. And then also some NFL content as well. Drew Sports Crew X, not really X, but Instagram, TikTok, and then Drew Sports Crew on YouTube and Facebook. Those are the announcements here this week. Let's get right into it. Let's go over to the Bucks. We'll go to the Brewers. So I haven't even gave my prelude to the Brewers, but disappointing weekend. I did record later this past week, so we already talked about the brawl. My suspension thing was pretty spot on. Other than the Peralta, I was surprised he got 5. Let's go to the Bucks. Okay. I mean, I don't know if I really want to recap this whole series. I'm not going to, because we talked through already games 1 through 3, 1 through 4 actually. So right, game 5. I even talked about game 5 already. I recorded after that on Tuesday, right, where they won by 23. I did not talk about game 6. Game 6 in Indy. This was kind of what you expected. This is what the Pacers have done to the Bucks in Indy this season. The Bucks did not win a single game in Indianapolis this whole year. So that's pretty frustrating. In that one, Dame played fine. Nobody played great. I mean, I don't even know where I'd go with that. Nobody played great. If you even look at the plus minus, Dame led it with a -6. Everybody else was double digits basically in the starting lineup. This was not a game the Bucks deserved to win nor won. It came down to threes. They didn't even they were 13 of 40 from threes. It was the volume they killed them with. They got up 43s, and most of them tended to be good quality shots. So that was something that the Bucks were hurt by. Overall, this Pacers team shot 54% from the field, so it didn't really matter how they were doing at threes. They were shooting over 50% on twos, well over 50% rather from twos. So that'll do it. You're not going to win many, especially on the road. Let's look at turnovers. Bucks turned the ball over 12 times compared to Pacers 10. All you have to look at is total rebounds, 40 to 44. Pacers win that. Yep. That's how it was. Look, the Pacers, they played very well offensively. I felt I still didn't feel they played the best defensively, but yeah, their bench players were the difference here. TJ McConnell, of course, a Bucks fan favorite. He basically eliminates the Bucks here. 20 points. He had 9 assists and 4 steals. That was TJ McConnell. Yes, TJ McConnell, a veteran backup. That's what happened. Halliburton continued to struggle offensively. He shot, I believe it was like 18% from three this whole series, 2 for 10 in this one, 17 and 10. Not a great game. I really didn't think it was a great series from Halliburton. Sure, he had that big game in game 3, but not a whole lot going for him. I thought Turner, although he didn't put up a lot of points offensively this year, he's played very well defensively. Neesmith came up big. He played really well this series, stepped up where, like, I talked about Benedict Mathurin, they needed a guy like Neesmith to step up, and he sure did. Him and Toppin both did. Also Siakam. Siakam had a very weird series, up and down, and then a great game 6 seals the deal there. He had 19, 7, and 4. Very efficient, 9 for 15 from the field. So that was the Bucks season coming to an end. What's next? What is next? That's a question many ask, including myself. The Bucks do have their first round pick this year. Not many people would think that, but they sure do. So it's going to be in the 20s. They're going to be able to hopefully draft a viable bench player there. Look, story one is that Doc Rivers has to start playing his younger players. I know he did in the playoffs. Andre Jackson, even though Andre Jackson was a top player on the road in game 4, game 5, game 4 rather. It was interesting that he didn't really see the court at all. I don't know. I get you don't want to play those guys, but you gotta start them somewhere. I think Andre Jackson and Beauchamp are the two guys who I think we're gonna see make a bigger leap next year into that rotation. Looking at next year, right? I mean, the roster is relatively the same, other than right now. Pat Bev's on an expiring contract. That's kind of what we got to look at. They retain most of the team. This is Brooks last year. Basically with the squad. I do think Brooke or Bobby. My guess is one of the two get traded. I would see obviously Bobby. Bobby has only $12 million cap hit and the value he's providing. The advanced stats don't really like Bobby, but the counting stats do, right? We know that with Bobby. Actually, his defensive rating is below average in respects to other big men in the league, but or even power forward spots. But Brook Lopez, we know he might not be the most glamorous player, right, and might struggle to get offensive rebounds or any kind of rebound, rather, which we saw in this Pacers series. However, he could command a fortune due to the defensive presence he brings and his player efficiency rating and his overall defensive rating with him on the court. The stat always is the Bucks defensive rating with and without him on the court. There's the glaring difference there. So I wonder Lopez or Portis or both get traded. I think it's a retool is what they need. They don't need to blow up the core. When I say the core, Dame, Giannis, Middleton stay. I think the pieces around them need a little bit of a difference. But that might be me over. You might be like, okay, Drew, they didn't be honest the whole series. Nonetheless, the season still didn't look the same like in the regular season. If they played like how they played in the regular season kind of reflected this playoff run, even without Giannis. I'd be fine. Yeah, I'd be fine with those guys kind of getting probably Brooke. It starts with Brooke and Bobby, maybe Pat. You keep Marjan, AJ Green, and Andre Jackson, right? Livingston, those guys. If you can re-sign Pat Bev, you re-sign Pat Bev. You let some of those vets walk. You use that first round pick. You hit that first round pick out of the park. You get someone ready. I've seen Tyler Kolek mocked at spot Marquette. I just don't think I would love that, but I don't think he kind of fits what this team needs. They do need a guard off the bench who can make plays, which Kolek does fit that aspect. But at the same time, I don't know. They also need that guy who can hit that catch and shoot three, as can AJ Green, but also give that defensive presence. I think that's kind of where they need a forward almost off the bench. I wonder if they just shock us and draft a center. People have mocked them with Zach Edey there. I don't know if Edey is exactly the guy I wouldn't want per se, but my point is there's been the guys who are mocked there in the 20s so far, and it doesn't have to be like this, but to the Bucks have been like notable guys who have been in college 3 or 4 years who are ready like day one, who are going to be like 22, 23 kind of thing. Not like your 19, 20-year-old prospect out overseas or a guy who's one and done. So I'll talk more about the draft when we get closer. It's kind of hard to speculate a month out, but over a month out, but that's what I'm looking at. I do think, right, we know that Giannis and Dame are going to be Giannis and Dame are over 65% of the cap, or 69% of the cap, 69.2% of the cap. So with that, keep that in mind. They got to pay a lot of guys. It's the reality of it. But again, yeah, getting Brooke and Bobby off the books would free up 25% of your cap. And I know there's a luxury tax they can pay and stuff. I'm looking at it like that just because it helps quantify what they need to do. So those are the moves we're looking at. I'll keep you all posted. But the Bucks season really was, we know how it was, up and down, and the coaching changes. You're paying 3 coaches, the all-in not really working. I've kind of recapped it week by week, but in summary, I'd say it was disappointment. This might sound weird. I think I was more disappointed last. I think all of us Bucks fans can agree. Last year was a lot more disappointing because of the expectation, plus the seed to back it up, plus everyone's healthy. The 1 and the 8. I think no question last year was more disappointing. But just the way this season ended was summed up this year. Just things couldn't go right at the right time. Right. Giannis hurt series, Middleton hurt at times, Dame hurt at times. It was tough. So Bobby ejection there. I don't know. It's hard to keep saying there's always next year, right? It feels like the window is dwindling. It's closing. You'd think sometime Detroit's going to get it right. Indy, it seems, has gotten something going with them. Chicago should be fine. They shouldn't be the harm. Let's go over the Brewers. I don't know. I think that's the Bucks talk there. Not much to add. Doc Rivers, I think they're going to commit to, though. I think he will be good to go. His press conference, though, was very like, how are we supposed to win the series when we didn't have our 2 best players for some of the games and 1 for all the games? That's kind of what not to say he gave an excuse, right? He did, but I think he gave a pretty valid one. They're the first team in history to win a playoff game without their top 2 scorers from the regular season. I don't know. I think that was a shocking stat, but also how common is it? Just dumb luck. Let's go over to the Brewers with a not so great week. It was and it wasn't. It was started well, but this part to when I did the last episode, not too great. Looking at it, it was the offense that went cold today on Sunday, but what I really wanted to highlight was, okay, we talked about Tuesday already. Wednesday, the Brewers get the 7-1 win. Willie Adames puts up a 2-home run game. He was hot this week. He was scorching hot. Blake Perkins gets the call up, which I love. It's unfortunate kind of how it happened to go with Gary we talked about. But, yeah, Black comes in. He gets his big league hit. We talked through that one. He had another hit Wednesday. Contreras stayed hot. But that win really was, again, fueled by Willie Adames, who had 2 home runs in this game. And he got Adames hits home runs in bunches, and he was on one of those streaks against his former team we loved. They got the series win, thankfully, after the weird game Monday there and the weird game Tuesday. The suspensions, though, did get laid down. So Abner Uribe again got 6. He ended up getting sent down to AAA too after because he pitched again Wednesday. So his suspension status, the appeal is still in question. Pat Murphy got 2. He decided to just serve both right away. And then Freddie Peralta was the interesting one. He got 5 games. That's what I was shocked with. I was right on the head with the other suspensions, but not with his 5 for that. So what happened was Freddie opted after Sunday's game. He announced that he's going to just serve it. He will start that on Saturday. So it works out well because the Brewers have 5 straight games. They have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday there. I'll get hit on those here in a sec, but he will then pitch on Saturday, which is Star Wars night, in case you care. So anyways, Friday, the Brewers get the best win, right? Craig Counsell they see in Chicago in those Cubs uniforms. It was just disgusting to see, quite frankly. But you see it. The Brewers, they hung in there, and they came back in this one. It was one of those Wrigley Day games, the wind kind of causing things. Early season game. The Brewers, they just muscle out a win, a 3-1 victory. They had 4 steals in the 8th. That was the most in a game since 2016 for this team. If you remember that 2016 team, there's some Jonathan VR there. He had like 62 steals or something for this team. So little throwback. That's what we saw. But then the offense, it picked up. The Cubs bullpen stinks. I mean, that was something. I knew it was bad coming in, but yikes! The Cubs starters have played very well. This Cubs rotation has been phenomenal with Wisniewski, Jameson Taillon pitched a gem against the Brewers. Another a quality start, 6 innings, a shutout ball, 7 Ks, and then also Shoto Ngama for them has been a huge plus for this team. And just like their starting rotation has been, they lost Stroman, right? So they lost Steele earlier in the year and haven't had him back since. But this team's hung in there, and they've, credit to the Cubs, they've had a great rotation. But the bullpen, Keegan Thompson was the one who didn't do great. It was again just tough. Hector Neris gave up some. They have no reliever I feel safe with, and again that's not my problem. But I know people are upset with the umpires as well. There's some tough, questionable calls there late in the game, balls and strikes. Again, I don't think the Brewers deserve to win that one. It would have been sweet if they did, but just too many runs early they gave up. Tobias Myers was in some trouble early as well. 4 walks, 4 earned runs. It's just tough when he was walking all those guys. Couldn't throw a strike to start the game. He still got a promise, though. I think the Brewers are going to stick with it, commit to him for another start, see how that goes. And Sunday here was the frustrating one. Javier Assad for them. Another I didn't even mention his name for the starting. Cubs starters have been just crazy good this year so far. 6 innings. I mean, it was 4 strikeouts, 3 walks. It was just missing barrels, really. And his ERA is down to 166. Brewers unfortunately get shut out. They only get 5 hits in this game. So you'd hate to see that, but first was Freddie. Freddie went 5 innings, three runs. You want to know what killed Freddie Peralta? The walks. Freddie had 6 walks in this one for those who missed it. Yeah. It was tough to see. They were able to have Jansen Junk eat up some innings. So that was something I looked for. They were able to kind of have it almost a bullpen game other than Peralta, but just the offense went cold today. Contreras had a hit, of course. He always gets a hit and a walk. He's been the best player this year for the Brewers. Hopefully Yelich can return soon. Not really an update yet. I'm worried. I am worried. I did see a rumor that he could go on the 60-day IL. I don't know if I'm buying it. But I also think he'll be back soon. The one thing I did also see was that he is hitting again. So that should be good. I think the 60-day IL thing was more of if there's a setback here, but the goal that I've kind of also seen is he could possibly be back as soon as this road trip. He could be back Tuesday or Wednesday with a return to the team. And what I mean by that is I already posted the preview for this week. They're in Kansas City Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, 6:40, 6:40, and 1:10. So we're eyeing a return Tuesday or Wednesday. They got a 4-game series then. They're back at home against the Cardinals. So we can see them all weekend. The good news is, so if any of you are Xfinity or Comcast cable, I know it's unfortunate. They got pulled off cable. Xfinity pulled Bally. They couldn't renegotiate a deal. The good news for you all is they are on Fox on Saturday, and that's actually national television. When I say it, there's no blackout restriction. They didn't pull the MLB special where they like to blackout restrict us. They do that on Friday though. We're on MLB Network, but don't worry, you have to be out of market. So that's the one thing. But it's cool to see Brewers are finally on Fox. They're going to be on Apple TV again later. So for those who enjoy that, that's later this month. You're welcome. But yeah, they got the Royals for 3. They have the Cardinals for 4. It shakes up to be a tough week. unfortunately, with it. Like, you might be like, ooh, the Royals, they haven't been great. But what we kind of seen with the Royals is their rotation's been pretty good. They faced Seth Lugo this week. He's had a good start to his year so far with them, a good signing from the Padres. Um, they only get Freddie Peralta once. That's one thing that is kind of rough. But going through it overall, like the matchups tended to be pretty good. A lot of righties on deck for the Brewers. That usually bodes well for this team. Um, Even though they have a lot more primary right-handed hitters this year, it feels more than ever. It just feels this team just hits the righties better, and the stats kind of tend to that. So that's what we're looking at. The WAR report, I always like to look kind of where we are, like what players are contributing to the most wins on the team. And Bryce Terang's at 1.7 now. Contreras leads with 1.8. Yelich is still seventh on the list. Don't worry. Blake Perkins is number 4, 1.3. And then Brian Hudson's at 5 with 1. The reliever who's really stood out. He finally gave up a run yesterday. His ERA went up to a whopping 0.93. All I'm saying right now, he would be an all-star. This is without Devin Williams. We haven't even getting Devin Williams and Yelich back are gonna feel like for trade deadline acquisitions based on what this team needs. So I'm excited for those guys to be back though, but it's just gonna feel great to have those guys back. So those are the key ones. But yeah, getting Yelich back, that's gonna be exciting this week, and then hopefully when Williams gets back. But right now, all stars. William Contreras should be an all-star starter. There's no denying that. Bryce Terang should be an all-star reserve. He would probably be a snub candidate. I would assume he'd get snubbed, right? But he should be an all-star reserve. And then Yelich will make it in unless he comes back, hits crazy well. He's only played 11 games so far this year, so that's kind of the one thing. But then it should be Freddie's numbers kind of boosted up. Freddie would probably get snubbed right now, even with 3.2 ERA with 45 Ks and 33 innings. Probably still snubbed. Brian Hudson should get in. Brian Hudson would be the other one. So that's what we're looking at. Also, shout out Jared Koenig. I do want to mention that. So far, 9.2 innings. He's been kind of a guy who just comes up because the Brewers need someone to eat innings. But 9 2/3, he's only given up 1 run. He's been very good this year. Only 5 strikeouts. He's been really limiting barrels. That's really been his key thing. And he's just the guy to keep in mind. So they have 2 lefty relievers now. You feel confident with going in the pen, and that's Milner and that's Koenig. So that's kind of been exciting to see because you have that flexibility almost. I didn't even mention Hudson being lefty as well. So you have 3 guys, and then right, I mean you go to Piguero and Payams right now, and then also Wilson's been effective. It's just been the bullpen. I didn't mention that Trevor McGill has kind of stepped in as a closer. He looks like a closer too when he's pitching now. So a lot of flexibility in the bullpen is kind of what I wanted to touch on too here. So yeah, the week I'm looking at right now, 5-2 week or so is the prediction. I could easily see though 4-3. I still like the Brewers though in terms of the matchups. I felt a 4-3 is still appropriate. They're gonna have some games back at home. Obviously, it's the weekend in Wrigley. I thought they were gonna win that series 2-3. Could have easily been with yesterday's game, but didn't happen. Unfortunate. Well, we got another week. We just got our Brewers now to cheer on, and hopefully with Packers camp, here's some good reports here coming soon. So that's all I got here in this episode. At Your Sports Crew, again, check that out. Episode 165 here. I'll wrap it up. Thank you all for listening to yet another episode of Drew Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.